I think I'm getting old. My back has completely fallen apart. Hi, and welcome to Quilt Meets World, where we have adventures in piecing and joy. I'm Russ. Come on into my sewing room. I'm falling apart, y'all. I blame my boss, and this time I have a valid reason. Our team at work got pulled in late last week, as in, a weekend change ago while I was out sick with my ear, to help with the training team with things that have changed from our UAT environment to the production environment. It's amazing to see how much changed in this, dumpster fire. But it also goes to show all the chaos that has been involved from the development team. My boss, during all of this adventure, discovered that one of the floors in another building was practically empty. And she said that we should go shack up over there for the week so we could all be together in a cube quad and focus without anybody interrupting. In our normal areas, even if we are trying to say, we don't want to be interrupted, we have people sitting next to us, sitting around us that will just come by and say, hey, can you help me with such and such? Or just chit chatting and everything else because, we only see each other up to 3 days a week and lots can happen. Since I wasn't involved in the initial slides updates from the previous week, as I said, ears, I was going to be the one that was going to be responsible for getting all of the remaining bugs and test cases retested, resolved, get everything all set and party. And that also made me kind of wonder, why am I sitting over there? But it did make it a lot better for me just to ask quick questions to say, hey, how did you do this? What should I expect from this case? Because I wasn't involved in the original testing and stuff. But it was awesome for the rest of the team to be all together, and they collaborated. They got everything working, and they're in a good place. But I'm not. It all seemed like a good idea, except, you know, I found out basically on the last day I was out there that the desks and chairs aren't the same. Well, I knew the desks and chairs weren't the same that we had in our normal space. I just didn't realize how bad it was until the last day. Monday afternoon, we were in that temporary location, and my lower back just started becoming on fire. Tuesday, it was just as bad, if not worse. I did a lot of resting when I got home, didn't get to work on anything that I wanted to, but whatever. Wednesday, I was like, there has to be something better. And I started going through trying to get the chair adjusted. And uh, yeah, I found out that chair was broken. The very back of it, um, like it was the back of the seat was split in two, so I wasn't getting any support back there. I thought that may have been it. So I grabbed a different chair, got everything all settled in. I called my chiropractor on the way back in, or on the way out, and said, hey, can you see me? I'm in pain. He did some adjustments, got things back to where they should be, which, if you go to a chiropractor, that really only lasts a little bit, especially when you're inflamed. So I was like, well, hopefully it just lasts me long enough so I can get things better. Thursday morning, it just got to be bad again. And that's when I realized what was going on. The space was designed for somebody significantly shorter than I am. For ergonomics, you really want your knees to be bent about 90 degrees. Or, if they're if it's a little bit further hanging further down, not too bad. But when your knees are essentially higher than your hips, meaning you're at a little bit you're in a chair that is too short, that is really bad on everything. Except apparently, Squatty Potty wants you to have your knees up higher. So maybe it's better, worse for everything except for going potty. Anyway, the chair at its highest setting had my legs probably at about 75 or 80 degrees. And that's the highest setting the chair would go. The desks also were significantly lower. So it seemed like the space was designed for somebody maybe about, 5'6", 5'8". I'm 6'1". And everybody else in the team, they were fine with desks because they're, as one of my coworkers likes to call it, average size. I'm just a mutant freak. So I managed to figure out what was going on, and I was just basically like, I'm done with this space. Friday, I got to spend the day working at home in a desk built for me, in a chair that works well for me. So it didn't get any worse, but it didn't get any better. Saturday after my live, I went back to the chiropractor and said, "Hey, can you do something again?" He did some adjustments. He also, normally he says my right leg over my left leg as he adjusts me, but I did a left leg over right leg, which means, something was really backwards. He did suggest the word ice, which reminded me, oh, yeah, I do have ice packs in the freezer. And I always forget that, but I could have had ice on me in the evenings. I spent most of Saturday afternoon in here in a good chair with an ice pack behind me. I think I'm feeling a little better now, but yeah, that didn't always work. I have decided that I am officially going to decline any request from my boss to work in a space that's no longer ergonomic. I've spent $105 of my quilting money to accommodate my boss's request to have us sit together in bad desks, and I can't do it anymore. This is the second, maybe even third time in the last year and a half that my low back has just become inflamed, and I'm not going to do it anymore. As for the ear infection, as I mentioned earlier, I went Thursday morning for my recheck with the school nurse. My left ear, the one that didn't initially start having any problems, was a bit red, and my right ear was mostly healed. So it was a good thing that I started putting drops into my left ear, even though, that didn't have anything wrong with it in the beginning. And she suggests that I continue doing the drops until the end of the weekend, and hopefully the rest of it's going to heal, because there's no way I can go look into my own ears. She also suggested that I go to an ENT. Uh, Wednesday morning, as we were doing some chair shenanigans, I had a big bout of tinnitus, however it's supposed to be pronounced. I'll end up asking ENT how it's supposed to be pronounced. Where there's just a sharp ringing in your ear. I get it every now and then. To me, it just really sounds like back when I was in elementary school and we had a TV in the classroom. The TV was on, there was no signal, and it was just a black screen. You can hear whatever that frequency is that the TV runs at for electron beam and everything. It As you grow up, you don't hear it anymore because you lose the stuff with the ears. You lose a little bit of your hearing, but yeah, that's one of those noises that whenever it starts ringing, that's what I associate it with. She also commented that my right ear canal is slightly smaller than my left. I don't think that's going to cause me to die, though. I figured there was something up with my ears because earbuds fit differently in each ear. So if I have something that whatever size adapter module thing cushion for the one ear, I have to use a different size in the other ear. So I just thought that was just natural, the way that genetics work. I remember there was an episode of Star Trek where the Dr. Crusher was like, your left ear is 0.02 something your right, lower than your right. And they're like, well, what's that matter? Well, if you want your prosthetics to work right, it's going to do that. So anyway, I did get an appointment scheduled with the ENT specialist. The original date was a Tuesday, and I said, "Can we do a Wednesday or Friday, preferably early, because those are my work from home days." The specialist is up here in Marietta instead of down in Midtown, so I was like, I would prefer to go here, come back home, and work from home. So 8 days later on a Wednesday, we got everything scheduled. And as we were finishing everything up, I was like, oh, wait, I'm off that day that was initially picked. But I said, not going to change it, not going to deal with it because that's too much work on everybody. And I'd rather, spend work hours going to the doctor instead of my PTO hours. Riley did get to go to daycare on Friday. I think I'm trying to get her back to every week. I'd rather save the $30 with every other week to help pay for, Percy's prescription meds and everything. But it gets Riley a lot more the exercise than I know that she's wanting. We don't have the option to play with the doggo next door because doggo next door decided to injure both of her back legs. So I'm like, let's just get her more and more with daycare. Maybe I'll do it, every 2 weeks and then skip a week to try to save a couple dollars. We'll see how she does. She did great this week, though. She did not bite any tails of any doggos. I swear I have no idea how she got the idea of biting tails for fun is, a thing. I don't have a lot to say about Percy this week. He just, is back to stealing Riley's bed every now and then. I did, though, from interesting thing, have a few videos in my YouTube feed from a channel called The Chronicles of Todd. Todd Talks. Apparently, this guy taught his cat to communicate using those little button things. You may have seen them with dogs uh, and the cats and stuff. It was kind of interesting, and I was like, I wonder what Percy would try to communicate if he, you know, did learn when he was younger. But then I was like, I don't know if I want to hear the profanity that would come out of his mouth when I was 2 minutes late with his food. My niece, though, is in a little bit of trouble. I'm assuming she was practicing with her cheer squad when all this happened. But the comment that she said is she did a round off tuck, whatever that means, and landed wrong, and her foot snapped. Definitely not a good thing. She said the initial x ray shows a fracture, and they have an appointment with the orthopedic on Monday to figure out how bad it is and everything else. It sounds like, though, there's a chance that it might impact her graduating in May, and that's the worst part about it. The only thing I can assume is it has to do with work hours and stuff because she is for nursing school, so I'm sure there's, you have to have X number of hours at a clinic or in the hospital or stuff or working, and they're not allowed to work with a cast or crutches or something. So I have no idea if it'll impact anything with that. We find out again Monday what she can and cannot do and what she'll end up getting. I'm hoping for the best, and if it does cause her to miss a few hours of work and stuff, that she'll be able to somehow make it up. There has to be some sort of contingency with all of this so that she gets the number of hours, even if you have to be out for like 6 weeks due to a little bit of a medical emergency instead of uh, everything. And it is still technically summer, so I'm just hoping everything is good. Here in the sewing room, though, it was very quiet this week. Uh, I did not get anything done anywhere because of the low back spasms. Yeah. Thanks, boss lady. Friday evening, I did have to come in here to the cutting table back there to cut the last few pieces of the Fort Worth Fabric Studio as the crow flies blocks. It was the little rectangle pieces that are in the middle outer border. if you have the pattern, if you've seen any finishing stuff. There was just a handful of rectangles and squares. And I figured, they'd be quick to cut. It would take me like 2 minutes, except, the pain from bending over the cutting mat. And I'm only bent over a couple inches. Saturday morning on my live, that was also kind of funny because I got infected with Day of the Seam Ripper. Both Sean of The Guy Who Sews and Donnell of Donnell Stitchery were live before me, and both of them had adventures with their seam rippers. And I was like, I hope it doesn't happen to me. But, as I started working on the finishing of the As the Crow Flies Sew Along, one of my seams just started shifting off to the side, and I was like, oops, I gotta stop, I gotta rewind, I gotta rip a couple inches out. And that was quick, and I just restarted and everything. But then it got worse. One of the sets of crows on the sides of the center, I sewed it upside down. Yeah. So I wanted to have something to show at the end of the live to say, this is where we're going with this. And I wouldn't have been able to do that with the crows as is. So I said, well, I got to take a few minutes to rip it. It was like a 26-inch seam, and it only took me a couple minutes. But it does show you that, even though we are here on the YouTubes, we're presenting ourselves, we do make mistakes. And especially when it's on a live, we can't hide those mistakes. So we're all human. And, yeah, I found out that I made more mistakes later. But we'll get to that in a minute. When I got back from the chiropractor, I was hoping to do a lot more, so I managed to get the strips of the middle borders sewn together into longer strips, but I wasn't able to get anything else done. I was just too exhausted and trying to figure out, the math of how long the inner border should be. I was like, I don't want to do any of this. Iced it, felt better in the morning. Sunday morning, this morning, I was on live with Donnell of Donnell Stitchery on her channel. I was on with her back on Mother's Day a few months ago, and she had to cut that one short because one of her kids surprised her with a visit that she wasn't expecting. So, yeah, this time we managed to get through the full hour. It was a lot of fun. We had chit chat, and I got to see some of the cool things that her husband and son are doing with their 3D printer. I worked on the April gnome from Cotton Cuts, and I will have a picture of that in the scenes from the week. I had thought that it was all together right, but as I'm looking at the picture that I took, I was like, something doesn't look right. Yeah, it's upside down. The top of her head was upside down. Again, I'll show you a picture in the scenes of the week. You can catch it. I do think that means that I'm now officially halfway done with the gnomes because I have January, February, April, July, August, and September done. That's 6 of them. But I also found that there's another flaw. As I was downloading the photos for this week's scenes from the week, I realized there's a goof in September, so I have to get that fixed. This afternoon I wanted to get the borders and everything done, but as I took Riley for a walk, the low back started to flare up again on the right side, so yeah, I'm sitting here in ice right now. But even though I was in pain from work, I did manage to get quite a bit done. This week, I'm just going to focus on getting my low back to normal. It'll be lots of ice and chilling. I do know that next Saturday on my live, I will be working on the next Saturday sampler block from my local quilt shop. I've already put up a title card for it, I think. So you can go see it. In the description is going to be a block that is similar, but it's not exactly the same as the block that we are doing. Unfortunately, if I'm sharing the sew along with you guys, I can't give you a copy of the pattern that I get from the local quilt shop because copyrights and stuff. But I can go out and find a block that is either potentially the same or very close to the same. And this one is very close. I do know that the center block is a little different, and I think there's a little bit of a difference out in the outers. You can modify the pattern to get it closer to mine if you are following along with a sew along, or you can just do that block if you want to, again, make your Saturday sampler your own. This is your project, not mine. I think that the pattern that I found might be a little bit easier than what's in the pattern in Saturday sampler. I haven't looked. Anyway, that is going to be month 5, and what we have so far, the months are looking pretty snazzy. I also want to get the quilt that I have loaded and basted on the long arm stitched up. You'll see in the scenes of the week, it's loaded. I figured out a quilting pattern that I want to put on it. I have it basted, at least the first section of it basted. So it is absolutely ready to go, except I have been in pain and I can't stand for the couple hours that it really wants to do to run its magic. So I want to hopefully get a few minutes this week. It'll have to be Wednesday or Friday to say, let me get this on the machine and run it through and start having its magic run. Anywho, I think that's going to be it for today. It's just been a lot of, Russ is in pain, and I'm sorry about that. I hope you're entertained with the weekly shenanigans that have happened. If you wouldn't mind doing the things for the YouTube algorithm that makes it happy, that would be awesome. Also, if you want to continue watching, make sure you check your subscription status below. There have been a lot of people that have been telling me that they were subscribed and are no longer subscribed. And I know that's happened with me with a handful of channels. So feel free to check your subscription status if you would like. There's also a bell icon next to the subscribe button, and if you click that, you will be notified when I go live on Saturday mornings and when I upload any other videos throughout the week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and an awesome week. Until next time, stay happy and keep stitching.